Hello, my name is Jodi Low, and this is the Leadership Lowdown, powered by the BBB and U Improved. The Leadership Lowdown cuts through the clutter and gets to the heart of what makes businesses tick. We want to share the stories that matter to you, all of the successes and triumphs and all of the pitfalls, and everything that happens in between. So with that, let's get on to today's show. Hello, my name is Jodi Low, and welcome to the Leadership Lowdown, powered by the Better Business Bureau and U Improved. The Leadership Lowdown cuts through the clutter, and we want to get to the heart of what makes businesses tick. And we want to share the business stories that matter to you the most, so we can learn what it really takes to succeed in life and in business. The triumphs, the pitfalls, and everything in between. And today, I am so excited because I'm sitting across from a dear friend of mine, Mr. John Komadina with G&A Partners. So welcome.
Thank you, Jodi. Happy to be here.
So happy to have you here. So John and I have known each other a good handful of years now and belong to a couple of business organizations together and have grown to know each other and knowing about you and about your business. Share a little bit, because you've had an interesting journey. I know that, we have to start by saying he is a Wildcat graduate, which I do not hold against him, but he is a U of A alum.
Bear down.
No, go Devils. Anyhow, we'll leave that aside. But John, you went to the U of A. You grew up in Tucson, so you are Arizona native?
I always say born in New Mexico, raised in Arizona. So
okay.
So I was born in Albuquerque. Family lived there for the first 10 years, and then we moved to Tucson when I was 10.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So most of your childhood.
Most of it, yeah.
Childhood memories are
The only thing I really remember is the balloon fiesta in Albuquerque.
Which is
and
pretty
then
cool.
green chili. So that's the two main things. And, most of our family moved from New Mexico to Arizona over the last 15 years.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, that's nice. So they're all here now.
Everyone is in Arizona.
Love that. And so you went to school, and what did you study, and what were sort of your thoughts of what was your future going to be?
Yeah.
And what are you doing now?
So I thought I was going to go to med school and become a doctor. And so I went to U of A and started off really ambitious with biochemistry with biophysics was the major of choice.
Wow. That sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah, it was. And I realized pretty early, my second semester, that it just was not a good fit because of how much math I was going to have to do.
Yep.
So I remember there was a differential equations class, and they wanted you to do a initial assessment just to see
your math
where
skills.
you were going to be. And I got like a 70%. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. And on the board the next day, the teacher had written, if you got below a 75, drop now because you will fail.
Oh.
And so I'm like, all right, well I don't.
There you go.
There were 2 more math classes after that. So I'm like, all right, do I really want to be spending every night, weekends, really focused on this, on the math side of things that I found a little challenging, and I decided to change it up. And so I ended up getting a degree in physiology, still thinking I wanted to go to med school until the summer between my junior and senior year. So I'd just taken the MCAT, and my family and I, we went to Hawaii. It was kind of like a congratulations on getting this piece done. Uh-huh. And I was surfing out, away from the hotel, and no waves. It was dead. And there was this one guy that was German, and we were just out there on surfboards, and we're talking. And this conversation I had with this guy, I realized that, he kind of helped me. He asked really insightful questions, and helped me realize that it was my parents' dream for me instead of my own.
Oh, wow.
So I swim back in, go to the hotel. My parents were like, oh, how was surfing? And I'm like, it was good, but I don't want to go to medical school anymore. And they're like, what? So that, So anyways, when I was in college, I was part of the Sigma Chi fraternity. Still, obviously, an active member in that as an alumni. But I was in the leadership roles in the fraternity, and I realized that I really liked the business aspect of the fraternity.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's essentially like it's a business that, has a few $100,000 in a budget every year, and it really operates like a business. And I just fell in love with this like training program that we had as far as that leadership opportunity went. So my senior year, like after knowing I didn't want to go to med school, I just loaded up on some like sales and marketing internships. And when I graduated, it was kind of like, okay, what am I going to do now? And one of the great things that you learn through fraternal life is that it's not necessarily what you know, it's who you know.
Right.
And so reached out to an alumni, telling him kind of what I was transitioning and what I was pivoting to, and he was able to help me find my first role, which was with Enterprise Rent-A-Car in their management trainee program.
There you go. And so that's where it all began.
That's where it began.
Obviously a big departure from med school and that trajectory. And I have to tell you, I absolutely love that some sort of stranger from a foreign land met you in the middle of the ocean, and you had this big epiphany. So talk about those.
Yeah, my parents were not thrilled about it.
I'm sure they weren't.
It took like 6 or 7 years before they were like, oh, okay, this is like after that happened. They thought I had made a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
And it, took some time for them to get over that and see that, that this was that business and sales was a better role for me overall.
Right.
So what exactly happened in that conversation, I really don't remember. I just
like a feeling?
He just was like, well, why do you want to do that? Like, what's the point? And I think I was really, money driven.
Mm-hmm.
And wasn't really thinking about, how much of a grind that the med school is. And, kind of after, with that conversation, I had to shadow doctors and like in the hospitals and whatnot, kind of getting ready for those applications. And a lot of them were saying, like, don't do this for the money. You got to have a really strong passion behind this because things are going to get tough. And, you don't want to be in a position where you've invested all this time, effort, and money and find out that you're going to hate it.
Yeah.
So
good words.
So yeah, just kind of the experiences up to that point on in the ocean, and then this one conversation with this random stranger just kind of tied it all together. And
wow. I mean, it's pretty remarkable to have that type of an insightful and deep conversation, with a stranger in the middle of nowhere. So obviously exciting. And then that led to Enterprise. And then from there, today you're at G&A Partners. So tell us a little bit about, what does G&A do? Who is G&A?
Yeah, so G&A, we are what's called a PEO, Professional Employer Organization. A lot of people don't know what that is.
Yep.
About 15% of businesses across the United States use a PEO. Mm-hmm. And essentially what the model is that we divide up the responsibilities of being an employer with our small business clients. They remain the common law employer, so kind of care, custody, and control, who they're going to hire, how they're going to train those individuals on their business practices and customer service. And ultimately, if someone's not working out, they have the sole right to terminate. And what we do in this relationship is we come in as the administrative employer of record for payroll tax purposes, which means that G&A has skin in the game with their clients, and we have a shared liability on payroll taxes, HR compliance, benefits compliance, things like that. Mm-hmm. Essentially, the whole idea is to allow businesses to focus on why they got in business in the first place and kind of leave all the things that you have to do as an employer to us that are frankly a distraction to their core business and their mission.
Awesome. And you've been doing that work for how long? Because I know it's obviously been in a couple of different firms now, but.
Yeah, so so I was with Enterprise for about 8 years, started in the rental car side of the business, moved to B2B sales, and account management for Enterprise Fleet Management, which is like a sister company of Enterprise. And kind of got to a point where I knew that my time was up in this industry. I just didn't really have a passion for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I reached out to a college mentor of mine, again, through the fraternity.
Yeah.
A man by the name of Joe Beers, who you know really
I know
well.
very well, dear man.
So we get together, and I kind of tell him what I was looking for. And Joe, has been in the Valley his entire life.
Mm-hmm.
So knew he was well connected, figured he could point me in the right direction to talk to some people.
Mm-hmm.
And that didn't actually happen. Instead, he's like, "You're going to come join me at this company. And we're a PEO." I'm like, "Okay, whatever that is."
Yeah,
sure.
don't know what that is.
So it took me anyways, I decided to take the leap of faith, do something different. Again, kind of freaked my parents out by moving from this, great corporate company to a small business that had, I think there were 8 of us at the time.
Mm.
And I don't think I really understood the value of PEO
Mm-hmm.
for about the first 6 to 8 months that I was there.
Yep.
And then kind of COVID happened, and that kind of changed my viewpoint. And really, I really started to understand where the value proposition was.
Absolutely.
So I joined Joe at Integrity in 2018. And the whole goal was to grow it to a certain size and to eventually sell it to either private equity or to a strategic buyer.
Mm-hmm.
Strategic buyer being a larger version of what we were as a PEO. It was a 10-year plan. We ended up getting there in about 5 years, and we decided to go to market in 2023, and chose G&A as our acquisition partner. So. We were acquired on November 1st of 2023, and here we are today.
Here we are
Yeah.
in the early parts of 2025. So you've had a big learning curve too of going through an acquisition of that caliber and getting used to a new normal. And alongside that, I know that you've had, and we've shared, off mic many times, several important mentors along the way, Joe obviously being one of them. And when you think back, because in the role you serve today, it's regional sales manager. Did I get that right?
Regional sales director, but
regional sales director.
Whatever.
There you go. No, I got to get it right. So regional sales director. So obviously there's a lot that you're responsible for in order to drive the business, and in order to learn those skills, there are certain things that you learn in school, and there are certain things that come with experience in life and mentorship. So when you look back and think about the path that got you to where you are today, who are some of those mentors, or what did they share with you that helped you to get to the role in what you do today?
Well, Joe, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
big piece, especially over the last 6 or 7 years. I think that looking back at my time at Enterprise, I learned a lot through just the business itself, and just learning how to have difficult conversations with people, because especially on the rental side, where most people don't most people think of rental cars as when they go on vacation or they're traveling for business, but a lot of what Enterprise's core business is around helping people that have just gotten in accidents, or their car is having trouble and they need to take it into the dealer. So they need a insurance replacement while their car is being worked on, or is at service in the dealership. So you kind of already have someone that is on edge, a little stressed out about why they're there, especially if they weren't the one that caused the accident. And unfortunately, you are the last person in that line from working with the insurance adjuster, going to the body shop, finding out, oh my God, my car's going to be in the shop for 30 or 45 days because they don't have this part or whatever.
Right.
And then they get to you. And at times, in this insurance replacement situation, you got someone that brings in their Cadillac Escalade, and when they get to the rental facility, they find out that the only thing they have covered is a Toyota Corolla. So things like that would always, cause some stress for that renter, and it was really up to you as the as the manager or, just the rental agent to help diffuse and try to calm them down a little bit, especially
Sure.
if it's not going the way that they expected, how it was going to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, what great on the spot customer service in the moment, because everyone that walks
Yes.
through has a different story and a different need and a different perhaps crisis that they're working through. So yeah, it's a lot to manage.
Yeah. So I think about that time a lot because it really prepared me for conversations that I have now when customer issues come through.
Yeah.
It's a little different because you're working with someone that is these days knows kind of the core of responsibilities and things that you're going to be managing for them. As opposed to with enterprise, you just are kind of like in this education piece about how this whole process works. So thankfully, because I've had so many difficult customers over the years at enterprise,
Right.
It has made it a lot easier to have those difficult conversations now. And I think the big lesson from it is just tell the truth is the number one thing.
Yeah.
And you can't go wrong if you tell the truth. You have your integrity and it's not always going to go your way, but at least, you hope that the other person will respect that you are giving them the truth and you're going to try to help them through whatever problem that they're having.
100%. And one of the reasons, I was excited to have you on the show is, the core mission of the Better Business Bureau is exactly that. It's about doing things with ethics and morals and integrity, and that's the crux of who the BBB is. And knowing you and just knowing how you lead and that it is about doing what's right always is wonderful to hear even firsthand, especially for our listeners too. And when you look at the business today, what types of business or who's a great client for G&A? Like who do you look to partner with and who do you best serve?
Yeah, so I think businesses ranging from all sizes. Typically, you're going to really start seeing the benefit and the value of a PEO when you have 10 to 15 employees up to 250 to 300. That's not to say that there aren't use cases for ones that are much larger than that.
Okay.
I think that my largest client has about 1,500 employees, and that's a very specific use case that has, really high turnover, lots of administration, multi-state. But I think that when we think about the bread and butter of PEO, most of our clients are going to fall between 20 and about 100.
Okay.
That's most. And really the reason for that is a 20 to 25 person business is a lot different than 5 or 6 people. And you kind of have that business owner that might be early on in their growth trajectory. And so they've kind of piecemealed some things together. They don't have an HR, they don't have like a certified HR person on staff because they're just not large enough to justify the need that investment. Exactly. And so what we basically come in and do is we become their bolt-on HR department, allowing them to access our expertise from an HR side, and then we just make sure that they are compliant with all payroll and HR laws and everything else that comes with it as they continue to grow.
Fantastic. Yeah, well, that's great. And obviously a huge resource for businesses that are of that right size that need exactly that support. So fantastic. And outside of work, I know that you are not just at G&A Partners. You have a few other big and wonderful things in your life, including a wonderful wife and a beautiful young son. So tell us a little bit about how do you do the juggle between being dad and being provider and being business leader? What does that look like in your world?
Well, it's super challenging. My wife and I, we talk about it all the time. And I think that a big piece of it for us that is, we're still really new to it, I'd say. A year and a half with Jackson, our son. Communication is key. My wife is very career focused as well. She's a public accountant, and this is her busy season. So we I used to joke before I had Jackson that like for about 6 months of the year, from like January through April 15th, and then from about August through October 15th, she was just kind of away,
gone.
She's just working her tail off. And so it's really just about communication for us and really making that a focus every week.
Mm-hmm.
Shared calendar is a must.
Yeah.
And so we just have kind of figured it out and figured out what's worked for us, at least now. And then, as things don't work or that we have, we make minor adjustments over time.
Right.
So
fantastic. I mean, communication is key. So I love that. Love that that's part of your relationship and your family. And when you look at Jackson and just, I guess I've got this image in my mind of you in the ocean, talking to this gentleman and people that have mentored you or those conversations that sort of change the path that life goes. When you look at your young little son, 1.5 years old, is there something like a bit of advice or words of wisdom or something that you would want him to, I guess, learn from Dad?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the big piece, especially, what I've noticed is as he's getting to, he's got his, his mental development is he mimics everything that we do.
Mm-hmm.
So like, when I work from home, I'm on the phone pretty much the entire day. So like you see him like, if he'll grab a remote or something and he'll be like, hello? Oh. And so like I've had to like, I sometimes curse a little bit, probably more than what I should.
Right.
And so I've really had to be intentional about watching what I say in front of him.
Sure.
I think that with him at this point, because he mimics so many things, it's an act of being an example is probably the number one thing. Mm-hmm. So showing him what I'm doing, talking about it with him, I don't know how much he's understanding at this point, but you can see like even, when I'm like putting my clothes on and stuff, you see him like trying to like practice himself, like visualizing what it looks like to put his shirt on all by himself and stuff like that. So I think, as he continues to grow, that's the number one thing for me is just trying to be a good example, showing him how things should be done, and going back to telling the truth.
Yeah.
He's getting to that age where he starts to lie a little bit.
Right.
So I got to check him a little bit on it.
Did you eat that cookie? Nope.
Nope.
Not me.
Nope.
Not me. Then he goes and takes his important call, right? Hello.
Yeah, exactly.
Walks off. No, I love that. And knowing you and knowing that just all the growth and fun that's happening in your life and your family, he's lucky. He's a lucky little boy. So I'm thrilled for you with that.
I think we're the lucky ones.
Yeah.
I mean, sleeps through the night, does like pretty much
you
listens
got
to
lucky.
us. So
we're
worried about like, we're family planning. Hopefully we have another. Mm-hmm. We'll probably pay for it on the second one.
Yeah. It's typically what happens, right? Mm-hmm. You have an easy one and one that's a more of a struggle. So I love it. And how do I know that for you too, a piece of your biggest joy is also in adventure, and you love to hike and do all of these fun sorts of sort of off the grid type activities. So is that something that you do just as a enjoyment, or is that like is there a mental component for that you sort of need that to recharge? What is that?
Yeah, it's a holistic thing, I think. Mm-hmm. I try to do like 2 extended backpacking trips a year. Mm-hmm. Gets you off the grid, kind of gets you away from the noise, I'd say. And, there's just something about being in the wilderness and thinking about just the core needs, staying warm, having enough food and having water. And that's kind of like what you think about when you're in the Grand Canyon or in Canyonland, like especially places where there is not a lot of water. Mm-hmm. So it just kind of refocuses you on, these are the things that are super important, and a lot of the other things at the end of the day don't really matter as much as what we might build it up in our minds and how society, stresses certain things.
Yeah. Do you think that your frequency of going on those trips a couple times a year is for that, just to recenter you on what matters most and let me sort of not just shut out the noise and the distraction and the busyness and heaviness of life, but also let me focus on this kind of myopic viewpoint of, survival so that I can then appreciate that next level, which is the family and those sorts of things.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's been interesting the last few because Jackson is here now, and this is these experiences are something that I want to have with him when as he's a little bit older. But yeah, I think about him all the time on those trips, and if Val doesn't go with me too, then thinking about her. And it's so funny, like I have a Garmin GPS, so try to be safe out there.
Sure.
And in case that something bad happens, that we can get help quickly. But it does have texting capability, and I will text my wife every night, like as we get to the next campsite, or like in the morning before we hit the trail, and she just never texts me back.
Oh, you're like, I am out in the wilderness, right? I'm letting you know I'm alive.
Yeah, there was we went to the Grand Canyon, me and a few of friends last year, and we got caught up in this like lightning storm, and there was like no cover, there was nowhere to really go, and so like I'm texting her, I'm like, hey, like, can you just confirm like the standard operating procedure when caught in a lightning storm with no cover? And nothing for like an hour and a half.
Like, thanks. So by the time I appreciate it.
Yeah, by the time she texted me back, like the lightning storm had gone away. We had used my GPS, like my Garmin, to text like another guy's mom, and immediately she comes back,
sends it right to you
right away. But Val just probably didn't think that we were in such a dire situation.
I mean, I guess I love the fact that she just believes in you and trusts you so much in the same respect. Yeah, it would be nice to know that she's a little bit closer than an hour and a half of a response.
I'm looking for that lifeline right now, please.
Right. I'm phoning a friend. Really, I need you.
Yeah, I'll have to show you the video after this of me and my friends. Like, oh my God, this is crazy.
Crazy lightning. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Well, I'm glad you're safe. You're safe. So part of the Leadership Lowdown that I'd love to ask are a handful of questions just so our listeners get to know you, but also some thought-provoking things. And I know you're a deeper kind of thinker, so we'll have some fun with this. First and foremost, what is your favorite word?
Oh, wow.
Told you we have fun.
I think yes.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah, yes, I think is my favorite word. Probably because I'm in sales,
right?
And like you,
makes perfect sense.
It's you got to celebrate those small wins, and so like, a lot of my business development is through referrals rather than cold outreach, and still do a little bit of cold outreach, and I had to do a lot of it back when I was at Enterprise Fleet Management. But, you think about it in the sales process, like I said, you got to celebrate the small wins. If you're cold calling, the whole idea is that you're trying to get someone at least interested enough to have a deeper conversation with you. So trying to schedule this, get a meeting scheduled, the initial meeting, them saying yes. Awesome. You have that. And then same thing with like on the referral side, like, hey, Jodi, you happen to know XYZ or somebody at XYZ company. Would you mind making an introduction? Yes.
Makes perfect sense that would be your favorite word. Absolutely.
And it just kind of goes through the entire sales process because at every step of the point, you're trial closing, and you're finding out, what, where people are skeptical, or, what things they think are going to be challenging with this new solution that you're trying to bring to the table for them.
Sure.
And so at each point, you are getting a yes to take the next step until the very end.
Makes perfect sense. So on the flip side, what's your least favorite word?
I guess no.
You're like, I'll go with the obvious
no for an answer.
Yeah.
Makes
sense. I mean, if you think about it, especially in your line of work, makes a lot of sense.
Well, yeah, and then also because my son is at that age where he's,
it's all you hear.
Time to go to bed, man.
You're like, nope.
No.
So what turns you on creatively, spiritually, or emotionally? Like, what just lights you up?
Being out in the wilderness, for sure.
That's it. Yeah.
That's
I had the feeling that might be it. So what turns you off? Like, what just drives you bonkers?
I would say doing the same thing over and over and over again.
So you really like that
I like to
sense of adventure and spontaneity.
Yeah, have a less structured day where not every day. I want every day to look a little bit different.
Yeah.
There are certain days where I might be behind I might be on Zoom for 6 or 7 hours, and that is super challenging for me. So I think having an opportunity to go out and meet people and learn something from every person that I know. That's one of my favorite things about being in the PEO industry is that, pretty much anyone that has employees is a potential client. And I just love learning about why people got into the business that they did.
Yep.
It's just super fascinating to me, learning what people's stories are.
Now you know why we're sitting here.
Yeah.
So do
I asked you at the very beginning, like what led to this?
Yeah.
And
it's exactly that.
And that's what it is. I mean, you learn something from everybody. Everyone has a unique perspective. And a conversation I could have, today might might prove to be valuable, in like 2 to 3 weeks. And my wife always gives me a hard time. She's like, how do you know so many things about so many things? It's like, I don't know. I just, frankly, a lot of it is just talking to people and frankly, like reading and listening to podcasts and things like that. So
just the lifelong learner piece of it. I love that. So another fun one for you. What sound or noise do you love?
My son's laugh.
Yeah, I love that. Love that. I've kind of, again, some of these I'm like, I have the feeling I know, but you never know. You might come up with something, but I would think little Jackson's laugh would be the thing. Is there something, sound or noise that you then hate? Is there something that just...
I would say I have 2 dogs, and one of them is a little bit of a yapper. So probably her bark when she thinks there's an intruder in our backyard, which there never is.
Right.
Between like 9 p.m. Pretty much any time that my son is asleep and I hear her and she starts barking, I'm like, oh my God, stop it.
No.
Stop it.
That one sends you over, especially with a young kid.
That's probably the one. Yeah.
What, John, what profession outside of what you do now would you love to attempt?
Profession I would love to attempt?
If you weren't doing what you were doing. And skill set didn't necessarily matter. If you could just do something, what would you love to do? Did I stump it?
I guess the thing that comes up, if I could be a trail guide or something like that would be cool. Just probably a hard one to support a young family.
Right. Fulfilling, maybe not the best in terms of providing for, but right. I love that.
But it's funny because I've done some trips where I do have a guide, and it sounds good on the front end, but again, you never know who you're going to have to help in those situations.
Yep.
And do these people even belong? Are they at a fitness level, or do they
that they can
have
be
an
here or
experience
should
level
be here?
to do exactly?
For sure.
So having to deal with that kind of stuff, I think I'm pretty good on the sales career. That
you're like, I'm going to stick with that.
Yeah.
So is there a profession you would never like to attempt? Something that just sounds dreadful to you?
Probably my wife's profession. Being
Poor
a CPA.
Val. Yeah.
She knows it's not
awful.
for me. Yeah, we talk about it all the time.
Hey, you know what? We're all wired differently, right?
Yeah.
So got to love the fact that she loves to do that.
Yeah.
Got it. I
She's
totally hear you on that one.
Needs to be in the spreadsheets and in the tax returns, but
Yeah.
that's not a life that would work for me. Again, I need to have some variability in what I'm doing every day.
Got to have the variety. Makes sense. And last one for you. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Ooh.
He's
that I lived
contemplating.
a life that was worth following, or a good example of how one should lead a life.
I love that. Well, and going back to being that example for your son, I love that. That's perfect. Well, with that, I'm
just curious, what's yours?
What would I like to hear?
Yeah.
God say? Mine is what you did mattered. You made a difference. Yeah. Something along those lines of there was an impact. for me personally, it's all about how do you inspire others to greatness and see their potential and see all that there is for them. So if I knew that I was able to do that for someone, that would be really fulfilling to hear. So
Well, I can tell you that you've done that for me.
oh,
So
my friend, thank you. That's very kind. Thank you. That means a lot. That really means a lot. Being that this is the Leadership Lowdown, tell us, we'll wrap with this. What is one tip, one word of wisdom, one piece of advice for someone maybe just starting out, or maybe they're starting out in their career or getting into your type of an industry? What's one word of wisdom you'd give to people?
keep going.
Yeah.
Keep going. I think that, everyone faces adversity.
Mm-hmm.
And, in sales, you face a lot of adversity. And, I would say that probably translates to a lot of people as they're kind of getting going in whatever career that they choose, because the real world is way different than, academics.
Yeah.
And so you might learn about something conceptually, but you don't really know it until you're in it.
Yeah.
I was not a great salesperson when I first got going.
Mm-hmm.
In the B2B side specifically, I kind of had in the rental side. You learn through doing, and it's trial by fire. Like
mm-hmm.
you are interacting with 10, 15, 20, maybe 40 people a day, and those are all opportunities to sell. Like oh, you want this like larger car? Like cool. Like do you want the damage waiver and all these things? And so like those conversations that so many people dread, I just got like really good at it.
Right.
When you get to B2B, especially depending on what you are selling, you might have 5 to 15 or 20 customers sign that year. So your at-bats is very different when you just have fewer at-bats.
Sure.
And it's okay to struggle. Like everyone probably is going to get to a point in their career where they're going to struggle with whatever new role and responsibilities that they have. And my advice is just to keep going, trust that process, and be intentional about what you learn. Mm-hmm. And look back at those conversations that give you anxiety in the middle of the night, and like, oh my God, I can't believe I said this or I said that. I think we all have that, or mm-hmm. unless I'm unique in that way.
I mean, at some degree and at some point, I'm sure we all have. Sure.
Yeah. So you got to kind of just like change your mental script, what you're telling yourself, instead of like, oh, why am I doing this? To I can do this. Mm-hmm. This is hard, but I can do it. I can figure it out. I'm doing my best. And just keep going.
That script. Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Great words of wisdom. So if listeners want to learn more about you or learn more about G&A, best place to do that?
Yeah, so probably, they can always visit our website, gnapartners.com. You can also find me on LinkedIn.
Awesome.
JohnKomadina.
Love it. Love it. Well, thank you so much for making time and spending time with our listeners today and sharing a little bit about John Komadina and G&A. And I love that you took us on a little bit of a journey too. So thank you for that. And with that, until next time, this has been the Leadership Lowdown with your host, Jodi Low. Thank you for joining us. And remember, leaders are learners. So stay curious and keep leading with love. Make it a great day, everyone.